In America, it was Manifest Destiny. In Ethiopia, they call it Ethiopia Prevails. So what they're doing is they're using COVID-19 as a way of like the same thing they did with indigenous peoples, and also they're burning crops, they're killing cattle so that people do not have food to eat. So they don't have food for about 81 days so far, and that's in addition to other waterborne disease and also no food. So I want you to pay attention to what's happening. And please tweet or search Tigray Genocide, T-I-G-R-A-Y, genocide, hashtag Tigray Genocide. Please pay attention. There has been two stories that came out yesterday and the day before. One is the Economist said the Ethiopian government is using hunger as a weapon of war. And the Reuters also put out how mass rape is rampant in Tigray region. And these are the Ethiopian and Eritrean governments doing it in Tigray. So please pay attention, do what you can, connect with the community. A lot of, in our community, a lot of Tigrayans think the Biden administration will have a different policy. But that's it. I don't think that's going to happen unless there is a grassroots movement across ethnic lines, racial lines, to hold officials or authorities accountable. So please help our community and take position, take sides, and help how this is happening. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
It's really important that we acknowledge what's going on over there. It's really fucked up. Man, okay, so here we are again between this federal building and Wells Fargo. Fuck Wells Fargo, fuck the banks, money hoarders, money launderers. The whole capitalist system's broken. We need to fix the system, and we're not going to fix it with a different kind of capitalism. Wells Fargo finances and has financed a lot of really fucked up things throughout history. They are responsible for funding pipelines and systems that perpetuate genocide. So I just want to use a second to bring attention to Wells Fargo and fuck Wells Fargo, fuck the banks, fuck capitalism. But also, fuck the immigration system. Abolish ICE. We need to abolish ICE. We need to abolish these borders. Mexico and Canada, there's indigenous people who were here before these borders were created. This is native land. This land belongs to the tribes. The land you're standing on belongs to Duwamish people. In Canada, that land belongs to the indigenous people. Mexico as well. Mexican people are indigenous people. Alright, we're gonna take a second.
A blessing song for you guys. I just got a few things to say about Wells Fargo is a racist business. And they're such corrupt businessmen that they took out a survey saying, who is the least likely to report fraud? And they found out Native Americans and the elderly. And they literally put a campaign of fraud against us as people. And they were forced to pay hundreds of millions of dollars because of their racist activity. Who went to jail? Fucking nobody. What happened? They had to pay a fine. And that's it. In my nephew's name alone, they have 25 accounts open for him. And it's $30 a month every month when you don't have any action in your account. And they steal Indian money this way, and they've been doing it for generations. And I just want to sing a song. It's called the People Song. It's the we song for all of us, not just me as an Indian, indigenous, half-breed, white person, as a fucking human of this planet. And I just want to share it all with you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you, CJ.
destiny. That's what they're operating on, is the sense that this was given to them by God, that the land of America, yes, was given to them by Jesus specifically. The belief that the expansion of the United States was divinely ordained, justifiable, and inevitable was used to rationalize the removal of American Indians from their native homeland. In the minds of white Americans, the Indians were not using the land to its full potential because capitalism has turned out well, right? And as they reserved large tracts of unspoiled land for hunting, leaving the land uncultivated. It was not being cultivated then, the land was being wasted again. Americans declared that it was their duty, their manifest destiny. This is why they won't shake loose. They feel like this was their God-given right to come and colonize the land, to remove people that did not exceed their standards, that had different cultures, different languages, different points of view. And I want you cops back there to hear this too. You thought you were entitled to be violent with your people, and you're not. You thought you were entitled to come up and kill people that looked like they had strife, like they had turmoil within them. You do not. You do not have the right to kill anybody or to value anybody's life over another. You need to understand that. So, not surprisingly, the most active supporters of Manifest Destiny and proponents of Indian removal were those who practiced land speculation. Land speculators bought large tracts of land with the expectation that the land would quickly increase in value as more people settled in the West and demand for that Western land increased. As the Western land was admitted into the Union, it would consequently increase the value. So these guys, bless their souls, right? They think they're trying to save us.
That's a certain term too.
I have a very dry sense of humor. And Alice Cooper gets it. Yeah, they think that this is beholden to them. They don't know any different. So when you go back to your communities, especially those of us that grew up in rural communities where religion tends to play a heavy hand, take these conversations back to them about Manifest Destiny, because it's still a theme even today, right? That we were exceptional as human beings if we were white Americans, but that you didn't belong here if you were any other skin color or if you spoke a different language. That's not even close to what I believe a creator or a higher power would ask of American people. So when you go back into those communities, if you ever have to visit home, which I try very hard not to go back to Southern Idaho ever, but it is one of those communities where I grew up hearing the rhetoric that white people were superior to black and brown people, and that this land was given to them per God, per divine intervention. That's why it's so hard for them to shake loose. That and the fact that they're just plain ass racist, right? When you feel, when you've been taught by generations before you, by your ancestors, that this is yours, that you have a right to it, it's going to be hard to shake that shit loose. But it's not okay. They can't continue to erase us in a genocide, to colonize us, even to this day, and get away with it. So I don't know, I know that these conversations are uncomfortable. Nobody wants to have them. But if not you guys, if not me, when? Right? It's 2021. We just had a fucking uprising at the Capitol building because of this stuff. Because of white supremacy, because of racism. I don't have the heart in me for that shit to continue. I cannot watch more trauma porn. I can't watch another Native American on TikTok filming inside their home that's dilapidated. You can see the sheetrock is missing. They've got plastic over the windows, and you know they're freezing in their home back on that reservation. You know that the conditions are subpar, that they don't have access to food like I do here in Seattle, to good, healthy food, to clean water like I have here in Seattle, because they're living on reservations where the wells are spoiled by uranium, where they've been spoiled by oil spills, by petroleum that has leaked into the ground after the gas lines exploded when there was a leak. Watching these videos, watching a post from my friend who's in his second year of law school at MSU, Talk about how he was stalked by the cops a couple of weeks ago. They wouldn't pull him over. They refused to do that. They waited long enough for him to pull himself over after blocks and blocks of like slowly tailing this guy. They came up to his window and said, "We were waiting to decide whether or not we should pull our weapons." He almost became a police murderer that night. Had he not pulled himself over and called them on their bullshit, he'd probably be dead right now. Because they had long enough to run his plates, find out that he was living on the reservation, that his home address is the reservation, to know that he was Native American. And if you want to see some racist shit, go to places like Montana and Wyoming and South Dakota and North Dakota, Utah, and see how they treat their natives. At least here, you guys recognize us. You give us space. You try to acknowledge us and honor us. There are places in this country where that's not happening at all. As we've seen for the videos of women dying on a hospital bed as the nurses laugh at her and tell her that she was only good for having sex because she had 7 kids, right? So take these conversations home. Take them to your white friends that seem to think that there's a reason all of this happened. The reason this happened, colonization, was greed. That's it. There's no justification. There's no rationale. People wanted something that wasn't theirs. So instead of making peace with the people that were here first, they took what they wanted. And that's been the case ever since a white man stepped foot on this country. It's not going to change unless they're confronted. And I know we should be fearful of some white men because they have proven over and over again to be a little unbalanced. And I love my white allies that are here. I do love my white conspirators, so don't take this personally if you are one of them. But patriarchy, colonization, mostly comprised of white men that have done damage endlessly to this United States. To the natives, to Latinos, to black and brown people across the board. Because they were told this was theirs, that they were entitled to it. And nobody told them different. Because everybody lived in fear that if they did, they would be the ones to die. I get that. That's a real fucking fear. I don't want to confront a white guy who is potentially going to beat me or to like harass me for my nativity. That fucking white guy told me that I was going to hell because I'm a sinner because I'm native. So essentially, I have no way out of this contract because of the fact that I'm native. I'm just going to hell. Period. Does that make sense to anybody here?
No, that's not.
That's the first thing Matthew said to me when I walked over to Occidental Park from my car today. Hearing those words, realizing that in the early 1800s, early 1900s, my ancestors didn't have video recording, that they didn't have a way to put this shit out on social media to get backup, to get allyship, hurt. Because they had to hear it. And then they had to believe it at one point. Because you can only be told something so many times before you start to feel like it's real. You start to believe like it's true. That you're not worthy of personhood. That you're not worthy of humanhood. So that shit is dangerous. If you see shit like that, confront it. I know it's a pain in the ass. I fucking know Matthew's got a shit. But we don't need it in a protest space, and I know it's really hard to get it gone. In any case, take these white people on, do what you can to confront that shit, because it's killing us still today. As much as we're starting to get some upward mobility, as much as we're starting to see some native businesses pop up, maybe some native doctors out there. I just had to replace a therapist. My one request was that they were native, that they had a history of dealing with complex PTSD, trauma history, addiction, and alcoholism. I couldn't find one. It's not available to me to get a native therapist who had experience in all of those things. It does not exist in Seattle, Washington, which is a sizable enough city that it should. I don't get to have access to those things because my people are either dying or dead. And the ones that are still alive are fighting for fucking survival on the reservation. So I've probably taken enough time. Colby, you want to come talk?
We're going to share a song real quick.
All right.
We just want to share a blessing song because everyone's blessed every day for being alive and we have our health. And even though we live in this shitty rule by these slave owners, our life's better than 90% of the world's. people. And we need to recognize that this is very first world problems that we deal with. People don't have clean water on reservations in this country, and they don't have food, and they don't have a lot of things. We're complaining about police brutality, which is a thing, but in a lot of the world, they're being killed for saying anything. And so we're lucky we have our voices, and thankful for everyone for using them. Thank you. This is a blessing song from my cousin Chucky Privert from Tulalip, and I just want to share it with you. Oh, 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 hey. Oh, 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 hey. Oh, 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 hey.
right, cool. Thank you to everyone for watching today. It's no arrest.
As far as I know.
Woo! Yeah, no arrest. Yeah, fuck the bike cops.
Paw Patrol!
So cool, we had a successful, peaceful protest. Thank you, Car Brigade. Thank you, medics. Thank you, Bike Brigade. Yeah, thank you. Yes. Thank you, drums. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for marching and keeping it civil and keeping it moving. And yeah, fuck agitators. I know that was really fucking annoying. Holy shit, I wanted to hit that guy. Thank you guys for marching with us. Fuck the police! Alright, cool. Same time next week. Marching for Indigenous sovereignty, marching for the land. This is Duwamish land. We're marching to give the land back and to acknowledge the fact that this land was stolen. This was stolen land. This is Duwamish territory, not just Seattle, but all of King County. This is all Duwamish territory. Cool. Thank you guys. I just want to thank all you guys for being here. It's really weird. Everyone looks around and you don't see any natives, and it's because us Duwamish, we're spread like the wind. There's some in Muckleshoot, there's some in Tulalip, there's some in Puyallup, there's some in Squaxin, there's some in Suquamish. We don't really have a home here in Seattle anymore. There's a Duwamish longhouse, but there's no, as you can see, you can walk around. The people aren't here anymore. It's very rare you see a native person. And I'm thankful for all you guys for being here, supporting Native Action. We're going to try to get our communities more involved, but they're just so separated here as Duwamish people. And I just want to thank all you for being here and supporting the Duwamish. For Colby's awesome. Thank you guys. You don't got to stay home, but I don't care if you stay here either. Fuck it. Hang out. Also, just on a side note, just I want to shout out Danny real quick again. So Danny, he's in DC right now, and if you guys can help him out, that'd be great. I'm gonna read his Venmo to you real quick. If anyone would like to support Danny while he's in DC, holding Biden accountable. That's his mission. He's holding Biden accountable to the treaties and making sure that our treaties are respected. So if you would like to help Danny out, his Venmo is D8NNY-LECLAIRE-13. Danny-Leclaire-13. And yeah, that would help Danny a lot while he's in DC. Are there any announcements? I know there's usually something going on, so if anybody knows about any events, any upcoming events, now would be a great time to share that.
Hold on, I'll pull up the Instagram that I have that has all the dates. See if we can find it. Give me a second, folks. There's a whole list. There's a food drive. I think that's happening tomorrow. I'm so protected. There we go. Found her. All right, so we had today, Stop the Genocide. That's going to be, oh, that was happened already. Had March today. There's an announcement about the Gender Justice League, that there is financial assistance available for anyone in Seattle who has experienced domestic violence, sexual assault, or exploitation in the sex trade. And this is priority to BIPOC and trans and gender diverse people. Set up a new client meeting at genderjusticeleague.org/safehouse, or come find me after we're done here, and then I will give you more information. There's a From the Heart PNW presents To Go Hot Meals. That happened today at 12 to 3. Never mind. Tuesday is 2 to 8, and Saturday is 10 to 4. There's a mini pop-up at Thomas Street Mini Park up on Capitol Hill. If you have any mutual aid that you can take up there and donate to that cause, they would be very grateful. There's a camp potluck with Tacoma Housing now and on the Tide Flats. That'll be Saturday. Jesus, they all happen today. Fuck. You know what? You came to the right one. I'm just kidding. All right, South Seattle Food and Supply Drive. This one's happening tomorrow. Sunday, January 24th, 12 to 3. They're providing meals and personal protective equipment to houseless individuals. You can email decolonizingpsi@gmail.com for information about volunteering or donation drop-off, or come up and ask me about the information. There's a pop-up on Sunday for mutual aid books. It's at the station tomorrow from 12:30 to 3:30. That's on 1600 Roberta Maestas Festival Street. On January 24th, there's a block up and show up in Bothell. Meet at 7, move at 8. There's a town hall January 28th at 6 p.m. by SPD for SPD manual policy changes. This is probably going to be a very important one for you to show up for if you are indeed fighting the cops and all of their racism against the black and brown bodies. There's a link in the bio. Come up and find me and I can get it to you. Autonomous Action, Black Lives Still Matter. That'll be Cal Anderson Park, 5:30 on January 31st. And that's it for this week. Yeah.
There's also action on January 30th in Bothell. This is going to be a vigil in March for Juan Rene. If you want more information on Juan Rene, you can come and talk to me. But he was a person of color who was murdered by Bothell PD 6 months ago, I believe, and we still have no information on the cops who did it or whether they are still working or anything. So if you want to come join us on January 30th, there will be a march and vigil in Bothell. Thank you.
So yeah, it was one of my former classmates, and so the vigil is at 2 p.m. and that's when we meet, and then we march at 3, and it's at Stuypeck Park, and we're doing it with the Anti-Racist Communities Bothell, and it's my first time like helping put together anything, and so I'm just really excited for it. It does happen at the same time as this march here though, so sorry for trying to poach your protesters. Okay, thank you so much.
All right, thank you guys for marching with us. This is great. There's also Food Not Bombs. It gives out free food every Saturday from 4:30 to 6:30 at City Hall Park, which is actually not near City Hall. It's not next to City Hall. It's next to the courthouse, but it's called City Hall Park. So it's happening right now. And then we also give out free food every Sunday from 4:30 to 6:30. It's right here at Occidental Park. And then there's also something starting up called Daily Outreach in Teams, or Do It. It's just a daily outreach action. The idea is to have something that's more accessible for people who don't necessarily want to deal with the police or large crowds. So if you have some friends who want to plug in, but they are a little bit hesitant to come to a march, it would be a good thing to refer them to. We also sometimes go to marches, like thinking about flyers and stuff, but most days we just do outreach otherwise. And tomorrow it's happening from 12:30 to 3:30. But if you are interested in going to the pop-up at Mutual Aid Books, I'd encourage you to go to that one instead, because ours happens every day. And the Twitter is doit_Seattle if you want updates for that. DOIT_Seattle. The march on the 31st is going to be meet at Cal at 5:30 and move at 6:30. The premises is Black Lives Still Matter. It's not a trend, and fuck everything else. So I am heavily encouraging everybody to bring as many of your friends and your family and people that are willing to come out as humanly possible. This is not a direct action march. This is not a march looking for confrontation with the police. We're trying to get
as many people, and we're trying to get as many people out as possible. So bring all your friends, mark the day, it's a Sunday. All right, thank you. Oh, yeah. Is this not working?
Mine works.
You got one that works here?
1, 2, 1, 2.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. 1, 2, 1, 2. Hey, I just wanted to say something real quick for all the people saying like, "Oh, yo, Trump's out of office. Why are you still marching?" Or like, "Hey, Seattle defunded the cops by like 20%. Why are you still marching?" Like, I think today's real evident, and it shows that we haven't defunded the police at all. That was all just moving money to other departments, and like literally the only cut that we got was because of COVID. It was going to happen anyways. And in fact, we are increasing cop presence on the street right now. For anybody who's wondering why we're out here, we're actively adding more cops to the street, adding more pressure on our own peoples. And you see how they treat an indigenous march? We are still being colonized to this day. So for anybody that's, if anybody's ever confused or asked you, why are you still out here? Like, yo, we're getting more cops by the minute. And like, yo, the struggle's just getting harder from here, but we ain't gotta lose hope. We gotta keep on pushing, and like, yeah, it's gonna be harder, but we got our backs.
Yep. Who's got our backs? Who's got our backs?
We got our backs!
Who's got our backs?
We got our backs!
All right, same time next week, marching for indigenous sovereignty and native rights. Thank you. Reminder, do not speak to the media. They are not our friends. Do not talk to Como, do not talk to CNN, do not talk to Cairo.
KKK, Como Cairo King. All right, y'all,
And
time
don't
for a
talk
meeting
to
to
cops.
discuss some disappointing allies. Thank you all for joining.
You know she do. Period.
I am tired of us Black and Brown Lives Matter being attacked by the police. Why are Black and Brown Lives Matter police? Do they really matter? No. Why are Black and Hispanic police attacking us Black and Brown Lives Matter movement? Why? Why are they against us? They work as slaves for the white supremacists that work for the law enforcement groups. You work as slaves, I'll say it again. You Black and brown people that work for law enforcement groups work for the white supremacists as slaves. How dare y'all go against us and arrest us and attack us? How dare you male officers attack women and manhandle us as trans women, as Black trans women, as Black women, heterosexual, bisexual, and lesbian. And I thank the men for protecting us and fighting with us. But when I saw my brothers and my sisters being attacked, I threw the drum in the street because I had to. It didn't hit them. I just was coming at them, telling them, get off my sisters and my brothers. Period. Periodically. I went through an anxiety attack. Hello. One of my moments. Like, don't attack my Black and Brown Lives Matter sisters. Don't attack my white sisters that are allies that support us. How dare you attack women law enforcement groups as male law enforcement? You women law enforcement groups ought to be ashamed of your fucking self. Alright? For letting these male officers put their hands on us as Black and brown women and as white allies that support us. I feel that no man for law enforcement groups should put their hands when they're arresting women. They should not put their hands on us physically, mentally, or sexually. Period. It's like they get enjoyment and pleasure out of locking trans women up. They get enjoyment and pleasure out of locking heterosexual and lesbian and bisexual women up in the United States of America. Keep your hands off of women. Period. Periodically. Keep your hands off of us women. I do not like a male officer grabbing me by the titty. I do not like a male officer grabbing me by my arm, grabbing me by my legs, or throwing me down to the ground for not attacking them. Just for speaking up for my black and brown lives, brothers and sisters, and my ally, white brothers and sisters that support us as white allies. How dare you attack me? You got a lot of lawsuits against y'all now. You're about to lose your jobs. Because we got your badge numbers. We got your...
Washington, and really just being forward thinking about housing. And Dr. Lindquist, I don't know if you wanted to make a comment about some additional capacity or capabilities that we'll be having in the state as well moving forward.
Yeah, Kristen, is this a good time to talk? Keep talking.
Looks like we're starting to get some reporters with raised hands, but if you want to finish that thought, you can feel free.
Yeah, and so we've been talking at the Public Health Lab for several months about having the ability to do genotyping and have been moving in that direction. And a matter of fact, within 2 weeks, we'll be up and running to do genotyping. There's a lot of reasons to do genotyping. Certainly looking for variants like this is one. Also looking to see what outbreaks we are having around the state with genotype data, and also to look at those that tested positive and then 3 to 6 months later test positive again. Do those two genotypes match, looking for reinfection? So because of that, not so much of this because of this variant, although we will truly look for it also, we have been ramping up to have genotyping capability at the Public Health Lab, which again will be ready in 2 weeks, and will help us look at all positives that come out of the Public Health Lab.
All right, thank you. We are going to go ahead and start with, I believe it is Cairo Tips and News. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi there, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I was wondering if someone could talk about the concerns about how fast this UK strain has been spreading and what precautions need to be taken around the state now that we have confirmed it is here.
Well, let me thanks for that question. Let me start, and then colleagues can also give their perspectives. Especially, this may be where Dr. Spitters may want to also chime in from a local health perspective, because it's boots on the ground and the information that we're providing to our communities, and I think that perspective would be helpful. So again, as was mentioned, that we knew it was going to be a matter of time. What we do not know is just really across the United States, just how much this variant is contributing to various increases or various transmissions across the entire country, including in Washington. And so that is something that we're going to continue to test and provide the surveillance efforts in order to be able to determine as best we can how much of this is represented with the transmission that's happening in our state. But regardless of that, we still have to continue to emphasize and really what I said earlier, double down on. I mean, this is the time for all of us to remember that we're not out of the woods yet. And while we may be tired of this virus, it's certainly showing that it's not tired of us. And having variations like this it really underscores the importance of those preventive messages and doing everything we have to do. So I don't think it changes that. But if anything, it underscores the absolute importance of being meticulous about and making sure you're doing it all the time, and that you're not just thinking I can take a day off from wearing the mask or do those preventive messages or measures, because guess what? We know that this is a very infectious. The transmission is markedly more so than otherwise, and so we want to make sure that our Washingtonians are taking that in stride. And so, Dr. Spitters, I don't know if you wanted to add anything with messages across communities that that Snohomish County and other counties are doing.
Sure. Well, in terms of implementing our efforts to interview cases, make sure they're isolated, identify their contacts, and then have their contacts stay home as well, and make sure all those contacts have the opportunity to pursue testing, and absolutely pursue testing if they become symptomatic. That whole recipe is the same as it is for all the other non-B117 strains. And in real time, we don't have or actually need that information to do our interventions at the local level. What we just need to keep doing that with these folks, as well as the broader community. Again, as Dr. Shaw said, making sure that we're doubling down on our efforts to prevent transmission and use face coverings, keep distance from other folks, avoid crowded places, don't have gatherings, do the hand hygiene, and keep all that up, because with this slightly more transmissible virus, or maybe more than slightly, excuse me, but more transmissible virus, it gives it a little bit of an upper hand to transmit, and that could increase the number of cases. And even though there's no suggestion that severity of illness with this strain is greater, if we have more cases, that means we're going to have more hospitalizations and put further strain on an already burdened healthcare system. So it's really on all of us to just keep doing that, and then us in public health to do our containment efforts and try to get this vaccine rolled out as best we can, as soon as we can, and neutralize this B117 and all other strains of COVID in the community.
All right. Any reporters who would like to ask a question, please make sure your hand is raised. That button's at the top of your screen. Next, we'll go to Miley Katie. Miley, we cannot hear you, so make sure to unmute yourself.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
We can.
Okay, great. Thank you. So the press release said that there are likely more cases out there already than just these two. I'm wondering what are you doing to test for that? Is if I go and get a general COVID-19 test at a public place tomorrow, is that going to be testing for both strains, and has that been tested already?
Dr. Lindquist, this might be a good question for you, if you want to just maybe walk through that process.
Yeah, so it's a multi-pronged answer to this. It really depends. If you have traveled to any of the countries where this strain has been, certainly we're going to ask you to get tested. But there are some clues within the lab, and I'll let Alex or Pavitra talk about what are the clues to that this could be a strain, so that we don't have to necessarily test every strain that comes in. And quite honestly, this is a strategy we're using right now. We're looking for an S protein deletion, which is, I'll let these guys explain the technical parts of this, but some heads up markers on tests that are done that may be this strain in particular. And that is the strategy that was used to detect these first two cases coming out of Snohomish County. The goal for the public health lab, to be very clear, is that we will have genotyping up and running where we're testing all positives and getting genotypes on all positives, not just looking for this UK variant, but looking for outbreak strains of other possibilities. So That's the reality of testing through the public health lab now. Alex or Pavitra, do you want to explain what you're doing to target this testing for the UK variant?
Sure. So the one test, the ThermoTac path, happened to put their primer and probe set over one area that got deleted specifically, or not specifically, but in this strain and a few other strains. So that's a great marker. It depends on the labs that run it. We don't run a ton of tests on that platform. Other laboratories in the state may run more on that particular platform. And actually, they've been forwarding us a few samples from out of state. We found the first UK variant B117s in Oregon and LA County last week, based on that sort of laboratory sort of network. But then, you need additional testing beyond that. Those can only find candidates for the B117 lineage. And so those really need whole genome sequencing. We also have this genotyping assay, like I said, for the N501Y variant, which can be found in both the South African and the B117 lineage.
If I can just add, as Alex said, there's one way to screen for these kinds of variants using the TAC-path assay. But so for every potential dropout, we will go ahead and sequence it and get the whole genome sequence for the virus in that sample, and then use that information to confirm whether it is the B117 variant or not. But in addition to this, besides screening specifically for that dropout, I think it's important to remember that we need to also continue to sequence randomly selected samples from across the state so that we're picking up not just this variant, but also getting an understanding of what other variants might be circulating in Washington at the moment.
All right, next we will go to Tony Black.
Hello. I just wanted to ask, I jumped in a little late. Scott, I believe I jumped in right when you said it wasn't a time for panic. But hearing what we've heard about these new strains, what is the level of concern that you guys have and also that the public should have?
Yeah, so there's a couple answers to that, Tony. The first one is we won't do anything different for this strain than we are already recommending for the current strain, which is wear a mask, do social distancing, 6 feet or greater, avoid crowded areas, and wash your hands. These are really time-honored things that will help control the spread. So for that sense, there's no new recommendations. It's really just adhering to the recommendations that we've been pushing all along. Certainly, light at the end of the tunnel is there is a vaccine. There is no reason to believe that this strain will not be controlled by the vaccine. But again, we're watching that fairly carefully. There is some evidence that the vaccine appears to be more infectious. That is really our goal right now, is to see how predominant this strain comes over the next couple weeks to months. And so that's why we're talking a lot about the surveillance system for viruses right now. And then there's some preliminary data that is not confirmed by the CDC saying that this may be a more serious virus, more deadly, more infectious, but that is truly not a common accepted part. So that's the reason to say it's not a time for panic, but it is a time to be alert and really be watching how predominant this strain becomes in Washington state. And I ask any of my colleagues, anything you'd like to add to that? Dr. Spitters, Alex, Pavitra, Dr. Shah.
Well, if I may, Scott, just to share that when last week and then published yesterday in the CDC's MMWR is an article summarizing their take on this strain, which includes a model that anticipates that just due to its greater ability to transmit over time, it could become, over the next several months, become the dominant strain just because of its transmission advantage, if that holds up as a fact. And so in some senses, this is the recognition of the beginning of a transition to a new strain that's more transmissible, but as you said, maybe, no evidence that it's more severe, and no evidence or reason to suspect the vaccine will not provide immunity to it. So it just tells us all we've got to turn up our efforts a little bit, but otherwise life shouldn't really change as a result of this finding.
All right. Last call for anyone with questions. Please go ahead and raise your hand. All right, let's go ahead. Tony, I see that we've got your hand raised, but we are asking folks to keep it to one question for today, given the limited amount of time. So we are going to go ahead and go to Dr. Shaw for any closing remarks.
Actually, if Tony has one, I think we have time for just a quick question, Tony, if you'd like to ask one. My remarks will be pretty short, so yeah.
No, I totally, we had covered this story last night about the new variants, and we had heard about there being like a Mount St. Helens of eruptions of more cases happening both locally in King County and statewide. Is that including this new variant? Are you guys expecting it to get even worse now that it's here in Washington State?
Got it. Well, let me just answer that, incorporate that into my closing remarks, and then just close out. First of all, Tony, thanks for that. Thanks to our media partners for being here. Thanks to colleagues, starting with Dr. Lindquist, our communicable disease. He's really been acting as our state health officer, and I have been leaning on him a lot. So I just want to say thank you, Scott, for everything you've done over the last several weeks. Really appreciate that. Our colleagues at University of Washington, and certainly everything you're doing in the virology side behind the scenes as well as up front. And then certainly Dr. Spitters and the entire team at Snohomish Health District. Really want to make sure that we recognize the absolute efforts that you've all put in, given that the first case, as was mentioned, for one year ago was in Snohomish County, and we know you've been at it. So thank you to Sean Federick and everybody else at Snohomish Health District. I really just want to underscore that last point, which is that we have to just remember that there are variants that will occur, and we know that. And in fact, with my previous experience in Houston, there was a variant in the summer that was discovered in Houston that predominantly became about 75% of the cases and transmission. And at that time, there was also concern about transmissibility increase with that strain. We know the UK strain, or the strain that was found in the United Kingdom more accurately, that strain has been shown to be more transmissible. We don't know how much, though, it will impact the efforts that we have ongoing on the ground here in the state of Washington. But we don't want to wait to find out, right? We want to do everything we can to prevent Washingtonians from getting infected with this strain or any strain. We are concerned about this strain's propensity for increased transmissibility, but that does not mean that if this weren't the strain, it was the other strain or predominant strain that we have in the Washington, that we would just say, well, you don't need to do things to protect yourselves. We're going to say the same thing. Do those things. Do all those preventive measures. Do everything you can to really follow those 3 W's. Make sure that you stay away from gatherings, stay at home as much as possible, and certainly do everything you can to get tested either on a regular basis or but especially if you have symptoms. We want to do everything we can so that we can not see changes to increase in cases. And Dr. Spitter said it perfectly. We do not want to overwhelm our already burdened healthcare system. So this is the time for all of us to take that collective breath. We're now in that second half of fighting this pandemic. The first half, 2020, was very difficult. We're out of halftime. It's 2021. It's very important for us to really double down on our efforts to prevent this strain as well as any strain from taking over because we want to make sure that transmission does not happen in our state. And the best way to do that is prevention, prevention, prevention. So we're going to continue to do, and behind the scenes, all the surveillance efforts, all the laboratory efforts. I want to thank our partners. I want to thank everybody who joined us today. And most importantly, we want to thank our Washingtonians for everything you're doing each and every day to help us fight this pandemic. And certainly we're in return doing everything we can to not just emphasize the public health efforts, but also to get vaccines out to our communities as quickly as possible. Thank you.
All right, thank you all. We are recording this briefing and we'll plan to share that for those who missed the start. And that concludes our briefing. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
How are you, my friend? I'm doing all right. Linda, Abby, John C., greetings to you. All right, so the time, it sounds like it is 9 p.m. in DC. And my friends, you guys know I was here a couple of weeks ago. Oh, I can't even remember when I was here. Yeah, so during elections, yeah, November. So over a month ago. Anyways, that time it was kind of quiet. Most of the stores were boarded up. But today, DC now is a whole is at a whole another level. Look at that. That's FBI police. You don't see those often, but there are lots of FBI, lots of Secret Service, 25,000 National Guard troops are in the city. The city is pretty much, it feels like it is under a military lockdown. Every corner you go pretty much feels like a checkpoint. There are lots of police, lots of city police, you know, Washington.